Hello YouTube. What's new? What's new with me? I got my MeUndies underwear today. I have my order is I get a pair of regular ones and ones with design on them. And so my design ones had cameras. So that's what's new with me. So what's new with you? Also, still waiting on a person to figure out where my intro comes from. I do change it a little bit from its source to make sense with YouTube, but yeah. So, this video is going to be about the time I got lost in London, and it's a doozy of a story, let me tell you. Or I think it is. I also think it's absolutely hilarious looking back on it. At the time, I was like crying. So there's that to look forward to. I do want to state before I go any further into the video, the last video I posted my response to Angelica Oles leaving her law program. I got a comment, one comment. I'm such a small creator, guys. But I got a comment asking me to explain the loneliness I felt in law school, and I will make that video. It'll probably come up on Saturday, but y'all know me. Don't expect a schedule from me. Don't expect this date to actually be solidified, because who knows if I'll actually post it then, but it will be the next video I post. So this video, getting lost in London. So before I get into the actual law story, I need to preface this with a bit of information so y'all understand the context. So my school, when I went to Oxford, had 3 planned trips for us, and 2 of the trips we went to London for the day on a Monday. The 3rd trip was spending an afternoon in Stratford upon Avon, where we then went and saw a play from the Royal Shakespeare Company. We saw Julius Caesar. It was hilarious for reasons not related to the actors on stage. Well, kind of related, but it wasn't hilarious because the play was hilarious. Julius Caesar is one of the dramas. Anyways, moving on. So in the 2 trips that we had to London on a Monday, the first trip we took was earlier. It was about the 3rd week into our 6-week stay at Oxford, and that first trip was taking a tour of Legal London. And if you don't know what that is, I don't really want to explain it. If you want to know about the tour to Legal London, because that actually has a fun story attached to it as well, leave a comment down below, like the video, and I will do a story about our trip to Legal London. But the second one that we took was a trip to the Parliament buildings and the Supreme Court. Now, we didn't go into the Parliament buildings because our main focus was to go to the Supreme Court building and see that and see the UK Supreme Court, because it is fairly new, as opposed to America's Supreme Court, which is fairly old. So we went to the building, and yeah, so that was that. So let's go into how this whole day started. So first of all, as much as I love University College and as much as I loved the food there, the little meals they packed for us for breakfast to eat on the way from Oxford to London was not enough to sustain you for a morning, especially when you're doing a lot of walking. We got a croissant, a banana, not even a full, a pouch, a Capri Sun type pouch of juice, and a power bar. And I don't really like power bars that much because I think it was a granola bar. So, and other people were fine, but because I don't like granola bars, I was on the struggle bus, especially for this first trip, which is the doozy, which is another story. But this trip, I was smart. I bought myself some Pop-Tarts from one of the local supermarkets, and I had gotten a Dr. Pepper because I was drinking Dr. Pepper a lot more then than I am now. But I got myself a Dr. Pepper to wake me up because I don't drink coffee or tea. and I got myself a thing of apple juice. The Dr. Pepper was for later in the day. The apple juice was just to get me through the breakfast. So I ate the croissant, the banana, and the Pop-Tarts, and drank my apple juice, right? And so the reason why they did this is because our school put us on a bus, basically. They paid for these 2 trips, they paid for a bus to get us there and to get us back, because there is a bus that takes you to and from Oxford, to London, from Oxford to London, and from London to Oxford. And it's like, you pay once, it's for both trips, which is very important. This bus is very important. And it travels all throughout the day. Remember this, because this will come into play about how I get lost. So we get on this bus. We take like the 1.5 2 hour ride, I don't know how long it was, to get to London. And when we get to London, where the bus stops is not exactly where we needed to be. So we had to get on the tube, which, no big deal. I already had my Oyster card. So we got on the tube and we got off at, was it Victoria Station? I want to say it was Victoria Station. I know it was one of the bigger stations, one of the bigger tube stops, like one with like the not the mini mall inside, but had like restaurants inside. And there's like a lot of exits out of this one tube station. And so we exited out, and like the first thing I see when I exit out is Big Ben, and I'm like, oh my god, because the thing is, when you see Big Ben in pictures, you don't realize how big it is, but when you're standing like underneath it, you're like, oh hey, there you are. You're like looking up at it. And so the reason why we went to, so if you don't know the setup of how this part of London is, Big Ben and the Parliament buildings are like, I think they're on the opposite side of the river. I could be wrong, but they're like right there. And then you have Westminster Abbey, and it's like a square. So you have shops right here, Parliament building, Westminster Abbey, and the Supreme Court building. And we were going to the Supreme Court building. So, and the thing is, this was only like a half-day trip. So we had the other half of the day to do whatever we wanted. And so we went in, did the stuff at the Supreme Court building. I sat in on a bit of a case, and then we got to leave whenever we wanted after that. And so did that. And since we were right next to Westminster Abbey, I was like, perfect. I was going to do it with a friend, but she got bored of waiting in line, which wasn't that terrible, because when we went to London, we had amazing weather when we were in England in general. It was like 3-4 years ago now. There was a heat wave going on. Every day it was like 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very warm to them. For me, it's like perfect spring day, like perfect, because the breeze would blow and it would be nice and cool and refreshing, instead of Texas summers where the breeze blows and you get like the sweat dried off of you because it doesn't do anything. The shade was actually cool, which again doesn't happen in Texas in the summer, where the shade is literally just a reprieve from the sun. So I decided I was gonna do Westminster Abbey because it was like right there, like right, I could throw a stone and it would be there. Like I could touch the building from where the Supreme Court building is, basically. So did Westminster Abbey, gorgeous. Please let people take pictures because it was so pretty. I did see people like cheating and taking out their phones and taking pictures, but I'm a rule follower, kind of. I did take one picture inside, but I didn't take one of like anything like in the chapel or anything. I was in like a long corridor type thing that was outside, and I took a picture of some of the towers from that. So I didn't actually take a picture of any of the tombs or any of that kind of stuff, even though I really wanted to, because it is gorgeous in Westminster Abbey. Absolutely freaking gorgeous. So went through Westminster Abbey, and about this time, I want to say it was like 3 o'clock, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to Oxford. We had school the next day. Some people actually stayed the night, which kudos to them. I didn't do that. I wanted to go back to Oxford, do my regular Monday night thing, which was study, get my homework done, and then just kind of walk about the town for a bit. So, finished Westminster, and now it was time for me to go home. And here's the thing. It was really easy to find everything when I was in a group of people and find where the buses loaded and unloaded when I was with a group of people, and I didn't really have to worry about it, but I was alone. So I knew about where I needed to go. So I needed to head back to the main entrance of Victoria Station. And so I did that, got on the tube, did what I needed to do, and I exited. And the area that I exited was like the main entrance and exit of this tube station. And this is where the getting lost comes into major play, because I got so lost, guys. And it wasn't even that I didn't know where I was in London. I knew where I was. I'm fairly good with directions in cities of which I don't live, in that I can find my way around New York or Manhattan Island pretty well. I could find my way around London pretty well, but like when it came to this specific instance, I could not find where this bus stop was. Like, I wanted to leave at like 3. I ended up leaving at like, you know what, I don't even think it was 3. I think it was earlier in the day. I think it was like at 2. I hadn't had lunch, and I just wanted to leave. So it was 2. I don't think I ended up leaving London until like 4, because that's how long I was lost. And here's the thing, because I didn't have like my phone with all my contacts in it, didn't have like a thing where I could just call people. I didn't get that kind of plan. Like, I could if I was on Wi-Fi, but when you're walking around the streets of London, you're not on Wi-Fi. So I had like a little Go phone, and that was not enough because I didn't have any contacts in it. So I was like, I couldn't even call anybody. I was desperately lost, and I was just walking around this one like triangle street thing, and I knew that this was where I needed to be because it's where we got off in the morning. What I didn't know was that the bus actually like dropped off and took people back at a different place. I learned that like much later in the day, but I was walking around the same triangle street trying to find where buses were dropping off and stuff that weren't like the tour buses or just like regular city buses, like trying to find where and it had to be a specific Oxford bus, because the thing is, there are 2 bus like systems there are 2 bus companies that will take you from Oxford to London and from London to Oxford. So you have to find the right one. And I like walked around this area for a good 2 hours, and I was lost. I was like, I have no idea where to go. Sorry, my dogs are barking. I had no idea where to go. And it wasn't that I didn't know where I was. I knew where I was. Like, I could get you to like Kensington Palace if I wanted to. I knew where I was. It's just, I could not find like, the reason why I was lost is because I could not find the bus. And, Lord, I felt so embarrassed. I was like crying, and I was hungry because I hadn't eaten, and the only thing I had eaten was like a Pop-Tart and a banana and a croissant at like 6 in the morning. So I was cranky, I was hangry, I just wanted, at this point in time, I did not even want to walk around Oxford after this day. I just wanted to go back to my room, take a shower, and just like sleep. It was bad, guys. Like, I don't think I'm explaining, like, I was frantic. I asked so many people where this bus stop was, and they were all like, we don't know. I asked the people who worked at the station, I keep on calling it a station, at the stop, at the tube stop, like in the help area. I was like, do you know where this bus comes off? Even they didn't know. And I was like freaking out, because if the people who work here don't know where I need to go, then how am I supposed to know where I'm supposed to go? Because the thing is, when we got on this bus, they didn't tell us where it like let off, and when you get like the super simple subway maps, you know, like that just have like a straight line with all the stops on, that's not an accurate map of where you actually need to be. So I was like frantic, freaking out. My day in London had basically been ruined at this point because I had no idea where I was. I was crying. And so finally, I saw a line of buses on like, I wouldn't say it was a residential street, but it felt like one. Like it didn't feel like, because there were cars parked everywhere as well. So I saw this like line of buses and I was like, no. And I cannot for the life of you tell you even where the street was, because I don't remember. But I saw this line of buses and I was like, not possible. And then I saw the name of the bus that I had taken, or the bus company that I had taken to Oxford, because that was the thing. I had to take the same bus back. Like I knew where the other bus was, but I had to take this certain bus company back because I didn't want to pay for another ticket, because I already had paid for the first ticket to get me to London from this one bus company. So yeah, that's why it was so frustrating, because I couldn't change buses without wasting a ton of money. And I didn't feel like doing that, because when you're in law school, you don't want to waste money. So that was part of the reason why I was so stressed in finding this, because I could figure out how to get back to Oxford. I could take a train. I could take the other bus. I could do anything to get back to Oxford. But I had to take this bus in order to not waste money. So I finally see this bus and I was like, oh my gosh, where has this been the entire day? And I got on, I sat in my seat, and then one of the professors from my law school, not from Oxford, came on with his partner, and they sat like a few seats in front of me, and I was like, thank God I'm actually on the right bus, because that was another thing. I would get on this bus and I would actually be on the wrong bus, but thank goodness they did, and it made me feel so much better about the fact that I was no longer lost. And yeah, so we went home. I slept almost the entire bus ride, which is very different from the first bus back from London that I took. Again, that is a story for another day. If you want to leave a comment, like the video. So we went back. I eventually got a ton of food from McDonald's, because at this point I did not care about the delicate cuisine of food that you can find in England. I was like, I need something familiar, and I need something I know is going to fill me up, because that's the thing. A lot of the food in England I found wasn't very filling, which is one of the reasons why the story about the first trip to London is the way it is. But yeah, so I ate like McDonald's, and then at like, I want to say at 9ish, the food trucks come out, and then I got more food. So yeah, that's the story of the time I got lost in London, and it wasn't even because I didn't know where I was. It was because I couldn't find a freaking bus. And like, it just seems weird that that's why I would get lost. Because let me tell you, I spent like 4 or 5 days after my whole like studying abroad trip there in London, didn't get lost once. This is the only time I got lost, and it's because of a bus, and it was because I had to ride this bus back, and it was stressful, and I was crying. Like I said, I like was crying, and I went to London a few other times, and luckily the other times I was able to find the bus I needed to get. Well, lies. There's one other time where I took this same bus and again could not find the place where I needed to go. Luckily this time, one of the lovely people who was an actual like citizen actually told me where to go. And he's like, oh yeah, I've taken that bus, it's right here. And I was like, oh thank the Lord. I was like, thank you so much. So I like took out my food, because at that point this is a different trip. This was like my own side trip. But yeah, I did get lost one other time, but it wasn't nearly as bad as this one where I literally walked around for 2 hours trying to find a bus stop. And I was crying. I was frantic. Like guys, y'all don't, I'm not explaining it that well. I'm new to these storytime things, but I was not like, I like plopped in that chair. I put my bag in the seat next to me, because I was like, no one is going to take this full seat from me. And it was air conditioned on the bus, because when I said it was hot in England, it was. And for the most part, it was fine. But I'd been walking around for 2 hours straight, pretty fast, trying to find a bus because I wanted to get back to Oxford as soon as possible. So I was like sweating up a storm because I was looking pretty cute. I had like a nice jacket on because we were going to the Supreme Court building. We had like guidelines of what we needed to wear. And I also had my backpack because when you're in a city, you actually need one of those, which I don't live in like a big city where you just can walk everywhere, but if you walk everywhere, you need a backpack. So I had my backpack, so my back was all sweaty from that and whole ordeal. But I set my backpack in this seat next to me. I like took out my thing and I took out my jacket and I like laid it on me because at that point I was finally cool enough to where I felt like I needed to like put on my jacket. And I just slept. I did not anticipate sleeping the whole way back to Oxford. I wanted to see the countryside, but that was just not in the cards for me because at that point I was so freaking tired. So yeah, the story of how I got lost in London. I do have a few pics of this up on my Instagram, which will be linked below. But yeah, that's all I got for you today. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, or you just want to say, hey, leave a comment down below. Like the video if you liked this. If you want more videos like this, if you want, like I said, if you want to see the first time we went to my school, like went to our, what are words, guys? But if you want to see the first story I talked about where we went, where I said there was another issue with the bus, like the video, I'll probably be doing that story because it is a completely different experience. Still miserable as this one, but completely different. So like the video. If you like what you see, if you like to see more content from me, hit subscribe. And that's all I got for you. I will see y'all later. I hope you have a lovely day, week, month, year, whatever it is, whenever you're watching this. I'll see y'all later. Bye!